I'm going to make my life like a movie. My life is like a story. When I got, I'm going to go when I got married, because me growing up getting married was where I saw the life that my mother experienced with my father. And I started thinking that was normal because my mother never left. She always stayed in place as a mother. And, you know, it was times where my father would come in angry, bitter, just being just not him. You know, he put the enemy in, which was the drinking. And my mother, he would just take her in the bedroom, lock the door, and all I heard was the dresser stuff moving. And my mother crying, and we were small kids at the door, little kids, you know, but we couldn't help her. But at the same time, I was big, like I couldn't help, I felt helpless. We all did, you know, we would cry, hold each other. Times we would go in the closet and just cry because we couldn't help our mother, you know. And she would just come out and just back to cleaning, cooking, on the clothes, getting us ready for school, ironing, pressing our hair. She still did her role as a mother. But yet alone, I was taking in her pain because I couldn't help her. And Dad, he always loved us. He never abused us, but he abused us through our mother when he would hit her. So that's where my generational curse began. I grew up seeing my uncles and my aunts till they bled. Me and my sister, my mom and dad would send us for the weekend over there, and all we got entertained us with abuse the whole weekend. Me and my sister crying, just holding each other and hearing our aunts wailing at night. We couldn't sleep. I grew up just, you know, just singing, it was just so much of it around us, like an epidemic. I thought that was the way of life. So then I started growing up doing the same pattern. You know, I started out, let me tell y'all what I was. And, you know, none of y'all sit up here and act like y'all could do this. Some of y'all was
you better come on here.
Y'all was in this story too. Let me put these glasses on. Like y'all, ain't none of y'all been up in here. Oh, some of y'all been in this movie with me. Oh, y'all been in these stories with me. I was Little Ladies of the Night, Dumb and Dumber, New Jack City, Players Club. I was The Burning Bed. I was Brewster's Place. I was Tricks of All Trades. I was The Devil's Advocate. Come on, don't sit up in here like none of y'all was. I was sleeping with the enemy. Hello? Don't go around like none of y'all was. I was in between the sheets. That's all I'm gonna tell you about me. And you take it from there. Because that's who I was. All because of generational curses.
My God.
Keep it real.
Yeah. Girl, you had this.
Come on now. I was all those things. I ended up in the wilderness of darkness, sin suppression. Because some of us in here still dealing with that. Because that's the enemy right there. And he had me by the throat. I walked away from my family, my mother, my sisters, my brothers, my aunts, I just say uncles, aunts, and everybody of relation, all the way down to my nieces and nephews had to be parents to my kids. I had 4 kids. I was married twice. My oldest daughter's father was abusive. I left. We played house. Y'all know about their mother and fathers. Come on down. Don't act like y'all don't. We played the mother and fathers, living unwed. You know, sitting on sand. He was abusive. He was on drugs. And at the end of the day, again, another generational curse. See, sometimes this is what we do. Sometimes, you know how they say you're supposed to be evenly yoked, wait on God to call who your mate is. And then when you do marry somebody that you think is good for you, you start picking up their generational curses. See, your spouses can bring them to you too. So, and that's what I experienced. Every guy that I dated, I picked up their generational curses. So can you imagine me in that sense of oppression, generational curses from other people? And that's why he says, wait on me. Let me choose for you who I have for you. But see, if we pick them up, oh, he fine, great, got a good job, you know, oh, he could take care of me, and you know what I'm saying? Oh, he buy my kids some nice Jordans, that's his stepfather. You know what I'm saying? He paid my rent, Early in his ring, he bought me, all those things, I was just in that cobweb of all that, but I was still carrying the generation of curse.
Talk to
Glory to God.
Yes.
I ended up out on drugs. I walked away from my family. I walked away from my husband who trusted me. He put everything in his hand. He was in the military. I was married to the first husband. I was married to him. That was like, he was Navy. I was just married to him. I didn't know what to be. I would be a wife and then I could tell my daughter and everything. You know what I'm saying? So he wasn't doing the things that I'm so used to seeing my father popping my mother come out the room, just picking up what she had. Oh, he wasn't filling that script for me. He wasn't Dumb and Dumber. That's what I was looking for. So I tried to fight it off, but I couldn't.
Yeah.
And I ended up on crack cocaine and met a guy out there I trusted, because he was the one that accepted my vulnerability. He accepted me being promiscuous. Oh, okay. I'm sitting there, I'm thinking. And I just, one day I was at a party. Didn't have no business being there. Was supposed to be at home with my two kids. My two kids, because see, I got 3 baby daddies. So I know some of y'all got some of them too now. Don't act like none of y'all don't. I got 3 baby daddies. Okay? And guess what? I ain't like none of them. After I had my kids, I ain't like none of them. Except one I loved, the one I fell in love with. And then after a while, I started dealing with him. I ain't like him either. Because I didn't know how to love, because I never seen my parents get to act in love. I never saw it. So I always thought love was a father provide. Mama's still doing, taking care of us. And, she sent us to church all day. So we always had church. And, and even after church, we used to sit outside playing church, Sometimes we want to play school. We outside playing church. I'm acting like I got the Holy Ghost, the burn, the minister, she's preaching, and, oh yeah. So we, oh Jesus, oh Lord, we running around, use the water hose for holy water. Like damn cat. I mean, but that's the life I live, If I wanted a bike, Laverne might have wanted skates. My father made sure we all got what each other had. Eventually, you ask for what they want. That's how my life was growing up as well. I probably jumped around a little bit. Tell your story. So anyway, I took all of my motherhood, which I didn't know how to be. I just thought the way I saw my aunts, my mothers, and even, Miss Green, Miss Brown, Miss Smith from the neighborhood. Y'all heard about had one of them. That's the lady that never could get to switch and beach without your mother's permission. They go back and say, all these women. But all these women, to me, as I look over my life as a child, none of those women were right. They just stayed in place of being obedient to what God assigned to be the mothers of their children. But anyway, I ended up out on drugs. I like that feeling because it medicated the anxiety, the abandonment, the lust, the abuse. I mean, it gave me an orgasm that a man couldn't even give me. Okay? So that's what the drugs do. And I just kept looking for it. So every time I would experience any type of negativity from the enemy, I had to have that drug, I just had to have it. I walked away from my kids, but I knew that God was there for me. But I just kept going out there. The enemy kept pulling me, and I just kept following him. Okay, so where we going today? I became a functional user, had a government job. I would go and work out there, and I'd go out there, look for somebody, hey, go back to work like ain't nothing ever happened. Because that's how the enemy does. He transitions you to come into his darkness.
Come on, teacher.
He transitions you to just join him and get into that wilderness. That sense of oppression is worse than being on drugs. Because when you get that sense of pressure in your soul is where it begins. It starts taking ground right here. Then it starts going to the mind. Then the battlefield is there.
Right.
But for the love of God, he delivered me from that.
Hallelujah.
I'm free. I am free.
Yes, Lord.
I was able to kind of provide for the kids. Sometimes I did, sometimes I didn't. Sometimes I wanted to get high. The kids, they ended up with their dad. I'm glad Jamaica forgave me because I had a hard time forgiving myself. See, Jamaica stood there and forgave me for me because I was holding that in. And when she opened up right there, she took a shackle off of my feet because times I struggle with forgiving myself for walking away from my kids. I don't know how. I don't know why. I don't even question God, but I'm here. I'm here. And I know it's for a reason. My ladies, don't beat yourself up when you make mistakes.
Right.
Kids, because
Right.
the kids are always going to love you. They
Yep.
might be angry and mad at you.
Yep.
They love you.
Yep.
They love you. Hallelujah.
Yes.
And outside of all this, I want to say, trust in God. Because I'm gonna tell you one time I was out of the world, and this is true. I was out of the world, and I looked up, and I just was, and all of a sudden the utterance was kicking in, and I was yeah, God was there. He was like, why are you out here? You have no business out here. Go home to your family.
Yes.
Clean up your ashes. Go home. You have an assignment with me. Go home and heal your children with me. Because every time I try to come in, one of them would knock me out because they wasn't ready, because they're so used to the suppression of me. And every time I go to this door, you can't come in here. And then if you can't come in because they wasn't ready for me. So I went back out there. And then their dad came and he took the kids, and I just went back into that dark hole. I thought my life was over. I forgot about when she's 36 now, my second oldest. My first oldest was my mom. My second oldest, she was with me for a while. Then she went away. Then her dad took them two from me, and I was done. I was done. I worked hard. I had a good job, had a nice home, 3 cars, and he just came and took my kids. And I got empty again. I just gave up. I didn't want to live. I wanted to die. Because I'm like, God, I did what you said. When I got a job, when I took my kids to church, I received the utterance of the Holy Spirit. And then, but where are my kids? They took them. My refrigerator started getting empty. Everything, I started losing my cars. I started losing money in the bank. I didn't know where to go. So I went back to the wilderness of darkness. It can easily happen.
Yes.
It can happen. Don't give up on God. Just stay with him no matter what you go through. Even if you get into the wilderness of darkness, there's a light. Right at the tip of the finger, your fingernail, just touch it, and God will open doors for you. He will realign your life. He will realign you. Just trust in the Lord. Hallelujah. I want to say thank you. I want to say thank you to my family. I want to say thank you to my friends. I want to say thank you to the faith warriors in this room. Because you all keep me healed. You all keep me alive. You all keep me alive with Jesus, Almighty God. Hallelujah. Oh, Jesus. Hallelujah, Jesus. Thank you, Lord. Lord, I'm so sorry.
That's all right.
Anyway, I'm going to just go on with what I have to say.
Yes.
So, sometimes the devil, he's real clever.
Right.
So I started, oh yeah, I'm in good now. I got it together. God to pull me out of that situation. I'm good. You can't date God and Jesus. It won't work. Because then the enemy will have you right back out there. Oh yeah, you straight there. You got it. Yeah, come on back out here. I dipped a little bit. Came back. Oh, Father. Dipped a little bit. Came back. My husband said, what are you doing? What are you? You can't do that, Maritta. You're going to end up right back out there in the wilderness. This time you might not make it back out. You might be dead. And you got these kids to live for. And you got to finish your assignment. What are you doing? I won that battle of addiction.
Hallelujah.
Here it comes. At 57 years old, 4 days after my birthday, I come home from work because a few weeks back, my stomach just started growing. And I was walking in the house with my mom. I said, Mom, look at my stomach. I said, I look pregnant. I hope this ain't cancer.
Oh, wow.
The Holy Spirit had me call it out. Then I didn't even know it. That's why every day you gotta listen.
Everything.
You gotta listen to things that you normally don't say sometimes. If it's something and that's the Holy Spirit telling you. Jesus like, tell you, something going on with me, So I was like, I hope it ain't cancer. So I just went on, got a little weak sometime and went back to work June 28th and then June 29th. I come home, my oldest daughter pull up out of nowhere. Mom, hey, her and the baby. I said, hey, I'm getting out of the car. She said, you look different. She said, Mom, you gotta go to the doctor. You look different. And I went in the house, changed clothes, took myself to the hospital. My other daughter, Bernie, she met me there. And me and her went in the hospital, and I stood there at the counter and I said, excuse me, I'm 57 years old. And I look pregnant. And the girl said, okay, give her information on. So I went back, I do that, you go back and sit in the waiting room. So then within 20 minutes, they called me back to the vitals and everything, all that. So then after that, so they called me back again. After they checked my vitals, you go back, you gotta go back. Then they called me in. So she said, well, we want to do an MRI on you with a contrast. They put the thing in my arm, So they did all that. So I went back out, me and Bernice sitting there looking at each other. And we just looking around. Then the nurse called me back in the room. I sat. And so me and Bernice sitting in there. I'm like, oh, this something they get cured and everything. And then the lady came in there with the monitor. How the doctors come in, they sit at the monitor first. And then she said, oh, Miss Watt, she said, you have cancer. I said, what? She said, you have cancer. I said, well, what kind of cancer? She said, ovarian. I said, if I got cancer, I said, well, what stage? She said, 4. She said, you want to see? I said, no. My face said, that high alert of faith and step right in. My face got a high alert. Oh, it's on now. Oh, you want to come? Okay. So now you want to come with me? This is my new ward. That's my new ward sickness.
All right.
That was a new ward. So, he couldn't kill me with the drugs. So now he wanted the cancer. He couldn't kill me out there in the doctors of addiction. You know what I'm saying? He couldn't kill me out there trying to be everybody's, misfit. All the little tight girls. You know how we do, right? Come on, you can be like that in your own house with your own husband. Don't act like you don't know. Especially if you really don't even want him. So you know what you are to him, right? And he is to you. So anyway, I was just sitting in there and I'm like, I ain't receiving that, but I knew the war was on. The war was on. My daughter, they set me up in the room. She went in there, me and her, we cried, we embraced. And I knew that I had to go through this war. I had to go through it. I had 6 rounds of chemo. On the 4th round, let me tell y'all what else I had. I had a blood clot on my right lung. Both my lungs were full of fluid, and my belly was full of fluid. Wow. I had all that going on. But when they took me in that room, I just looked around and I was like, it's on now. Oh, yes, this is the war. This is the war of sickness and disease. It's real. It's real. So when I was in the hospital, They took the second day, you know, the first day they run all the tests with blood. Y'all know all that, what they do the first day. So they took me in the surgery room. I thought they were gonna put me to sleep. They said, well, we gotta take this fluid off of your lungs. So I'm sitting in there and, you know, it's like, you look at everything in the surgery room, like, well, they're gonna use that on me. And I was like, well, God with me, I'm good. So then they bent me over on the table. So when they bent me over on the table, he pulled out this long needle. I said, where that's going? You know how we always ask that, we look like, where is that going? So I bent over, the lady held my hand. There was another lady there, and there was a doctor behind me, and there was one behind him, and they explained to me that they were going to drain the fluid. So I leaned over, the lady held my hand. So when I saw, he said, you're going to feel a little pressure. So when I bent over, I thought they were going to sedate me. They didn't, they just numbed me. They don't put you to sleep no more. So I leaned over. He stuck that needle on my back. Some said, oh, no, because I knew that God was in there. The war was on. And I had 2 liters of fluid in me like this. And it looked like this dark, syrupy beer, this old German beer. And I was like, well, how long did I have this? Oh, well, you've had this disease for about 3 or 4 years. Oh, just imagine a war was going on inside of me for 3 or 4 years.
Wow.
They drained so much fluid from me. I was so astonished. I was like, you're kidding me. But then when I was speaking in a holy tongue, and the doctor said, well, what is she saying? What is she saying? The nurse said, the one I was speaking doing the work, you know, she said, oh, well, it's a language you'll never understand. It's a language you'll never understand. So I knew right there that the Lord, our Father, was with me. This battle was on. But guess what? It was a victory. I had 6 rounds of chemo. They drained the fluid from my belly. My clot was gone. I still have a metaphor in my chest. They said it's going to be in here for the rest of my life. But I called Laverne. I got a little discouraged about that. And Laverne was like, girl, that's just a past song. So they helped me. So they helped me overcome that. I shaved my head before they could even tell me the chemo was going to do it. I just got that first round. But when I got that first one, I was brought up like a fetus in my mother's womb. I went to my daughter's house, my first round. I was fine. I was on chemo from 9 in the morning to 2:30 in the afternoon. It was getting to me strong. My right was the size of an orange. My right ovary. Did you know ovary that big? My right was like an orange. This one was large. So can you imagine? All that time I was walking around. He said that is the #1 of the killers for women. And normally we don't find out till week 3, 4 stages. So when some of y'all walk around, we got all these big bellies, you know, and they like, go get it checked. Your OBGYN can't detect it. You can't even detect it because the symptoms are just like you was having a cycle. They still try to find a way that they can find it at 1 and 2. The same way you do your mammogram, the same way you get your thyroid check, go get that check. Tell your OBGYN, you have to be an advocate for it because they're not just gonna openly do it. You have to tell them, hey, look, you know, like, I need this done every year, I do the math, I do the thyroid, but I need you to do me with a contrast. With the because sometimes you say I back hurt, my back was hurting a lot for a couple of years. I thought it's because I failed 1 year. And now I don't have back pain because it was that disease sitting in me that long. So they don't tell you, you have to go and tell them that, hey, look, I need to check up. Right. And they might tell you, no, okay, well then go somewhere else. Don't put it off. And do it yearly. Yeah. Do it yearly. Outside of your mammogram, set it up, you get both done. You know? 4th round, chemos. After that, I went and had my everything taken out, you know, and had to go back to 2 more rounds. And, you know, throughout all of this, I felt prayers from the faith walkers, the GA. The West Coast came, Tamika and her little crew, they came, her Carter boys, the baby disciples and her husband, Tamika and her kids. and her husband stayed with me throughout the whole journey.
Amen.
All my kids knew their place.
Yeah.
God put everybody in position where they should be.
Right.
From my 36-year-old, my oldest, even my mom.
Yeah.
I got well in her bed.
Right. Come on now.
She gave up her bed for me to get healed.
Yeah.
I would wake up times sick from having chemo. And I had two grandsons. We got two little boys, James, baby James, and Jack Jack. And one would lay behind me, one would lay at my feet. See, because kids know when something ain't right. One night I was sick, real sick. And James always liked to lay at my feet, you know. And then when I looked up one night at 3 a.m, he was just like this. Because he was watching over me. Wow. He was doing his assignment. He was doing his assignment. And Martha came in and said, hey, James, why don't you sleep? James refused. He didn't want to go to bed. And he said, Nana. He was watching over me. He was my knight shining armor. That's what I call him. She got some good boys, I tell you. And you know, my son, he came and, you know, he wasn't ready. He couldn't believe it. He wasn't ready. He come and he looked and he was like, my God, you know, he wasn't ready. So, you know, God had to deal with him and everything. So my mother, she always been she just a soldier in herself, you know, I know she was praying for me. I know she was. I know my aunts and just everybody, and even my enemies. That's why God said, pray for your enemies. People I didn't think even cared for me was right there. I was like, what? People that I thought did not care for me was in the presence of me. I'm about to cry.
Let it out. It's the place for it. He's here. Yes. Thank you, Holy Spirit.
He put the best doctors in my path.
Right.
Not one of them talked to me about death.
Wow.
I didn't hear death, but he kept coming at me, put visions of, you know, like the funeral, the casket, and the whole time, you know, my dad. I was setting up for my father, yet alone I was sick. My father left, I didn't get to touch him. I didn't get to see him take his breath. I didn't even see his tears fall when he said goodbye. He moved on. My dad, so much. I didn't get to think about it. Him. My dad, because I know he would have been there with me too, but he was in his spirit. And I know he told God, no, don't let it come. She busy, God, she busy. Let her be in her side. But I thank God for everybody that played a part. My job, my supervisor. I didn't have to leave to come because I just went back to work and do, but my boss was like, you have to go share your testimony. You have to go share it. You can't sit on it. You gotta help somebody. But I said, God, please just let me be the miracle that walks the earth. Let people see that you still do miracles. Let people see that you can still heal. And then in March of last year, no, March of this year, no, February this year, I had another CAT scan with a dye. And then when I sat in the doctor's office in March, he took the screen. You know, you sit there and you like, he said, you ain't got no cancer in your body. Woo! He said, you don't have no cancer. He said, you don't have no cancer. You don't have no clot in your right lung. You don't have no fluid in your back. You don't have no fluid in your belly. And he said, you got to keep that metaphor in. I said, why? He said, you just do. I was on about 15 pills. I'm only down to 2. That's just 2. You know, God was able to keep my finances flowing, and my sister and my kids, and they had a GoFund for me, which was a blessing. And Tamika and Malcolm had their friends, sisters, their brothers, their organizations. Everybody was just, money was just coming from places I didn't even know people, and they were just coming, my friends. They was out ministering, being warriors, just to support me through everything. So stay with God.
Yeah.
Stay with God.
Stay with him. Stay with him. Stay with him.
He's a healer. Anyway, out of all those little movies I told y'all, some of y'all was in there with me. The Bruce played New Jack City Players Club. Oh, now. But now my story ends with Isaiah 41:10, Proverbs 4, and my journey was Mark 5. That's my story.
Yes.
I jumped around a little bit, but that's fine.
Hello, ladies. Hello.
That was great, y'all. So you get a call from me, and I say, look here, Holy Spirit, what's your name? Well, I was in my closet. Trust me, if I call you, I've already sat in my closet. I've already prayed about it. Allow the Holy Spirit to use you and come forth, because somebody is coming who needs to hear what you have. So don't sit on it. Trust me. Let me say this again. If I have called you, I have already counseled with my Father.
Hallelujah.
I have already prayed on it many times, and He has answered that a couple of times before I called you. Wow. Trust me. So I thank my sister for sharing her story.
Yes.
I thank you that God allowed her to be able to walk in her purpose. My sister has been speaking in tongues since we were little. She says that she got her tongue sound to me like she was saying in her 20s. But my sister, we've been speaking in tongues since we were 8 and 9 years old, because my mother kept us in church. So I thank God for sharing her story. So everybody on Zoom, if you want to know what happens after we shut off, you guys come to a faith walk. So our next session we are hoping will begin at 7:30, and that will be Miss Christy Jackson. She is a powerhouse. She is a David. Yes, she is. She is one person with an army inside of her. I don't care what she says. But I thank God for allowing each and every one of you to come. I thank you for those on Zoom who joined us this evening. If you want to tune in this evening at 7:30, meet us back in this